Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll talk a lot about New Orleans Saints. We'll talk a lot about the New Orleans Pelicans. We hope to get to the UNO Privateers and the LSU basketball team, especially the coaching search. We got a great panel for you tonight. Fazende of Fox 8 Sports, Jeff Duncan, columnist for the New Orleans Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming down. Looking forward to this panel all week long. Got a lot of knowledge over here tonight. And we always start off letting the folks know a little bit about what you guys are involved in with your publication or your station. And Sean, why don't you start us off today?
Yeah, you know, it's Saints off-season, which means it's like in-season almost with the off-season right now. A lot of things happening, a lot of moving parts, very fluid, very active. So we're all over that. We have our Final Play app, which is all of our stories, all of our updates. We have our normal sportscast at 4, 5, 9, and 10. We have our Sunday night show where we kind of wrap everything up on the Final Play at 10:30. And it's not just Saints. This time of year, it's all sports. Mm-hmm. They all seem to have a little bit going, and we're all over all of it. So it's super fun.
And of course, your award-winning blog. They can catch
After
that.
Further Review blog, yes.
You can do that on the app. Catch that
on the app as well.
No doubt. Welcome back, Jeff. And if you would, tell us a little about NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, and don't forget about that fantastic chat you're involved in.
Yeah, well, Larry Holder and I, my colleague, we do a DAT Chat podcast every Tuesday that is like Sean was referencing. The off-season, I think, is more popular right now than the season. Yeah. People are just eating alive with what's going on right now in the hot stove league of the NFL. Mm-hmm. And also, it's our mock draft time. I know Sean probably does a mock draft as well. It's the time of year when hope beckons, and everybody's excited about the new additions to the Saints roster.
Well, guys, welcome. Thanks for coming down with us tonight. I want to talk a little bit about the free agency first. And, of course, Ted Ginn Jr. signs from Carolina. As we talked about, a Henderson Meacham type deep threat. 3 years, $11 million, $3 million signing bonus that's guaranteed. A.J. Klein comes in from Carolina. Again, he was a backup to Kuechly, fast, smart. Will probably play the mic for the Saints, at least at this point. And again, a 5-year vet. 4 years, $24 million. The final year voids on his deal, which makes it a 3-year, $15 million contract with a $4 million signing bonus. Larry Wolford, who I think is Carl Nick's clone, at least physically, 6'3", 317, 26 years old. They get him from Detroit. 4 years, $34 million, $17 million of that guaranteed. And then Alex Okafor, which I thought was a really great signing for him this week. 1 year, $3 million. It's a $1 million signing bonus, but it's really just a $2 million guaranteed contract and they get $1 million based on sacks and time of play. Also, Nick Fairley re-signed 4 years, $28 million, $14 million guaranteed, $2 million for sack incentives. Only $8 million of that signing bonus and the base salary of $1 million are fully guaranteed. And, of course, we'll get into the Cooks trade as we go forward. Guys, I threw those numbers out to the audience, to yourselves. You guys know those numbers, obviously. Your thoughts? I think they've done a really good job with free agency. I thought they've been frugal. They've gotten guys at the right number. They got guys going into their second contract, with the exception of Ginn. So there's some upside there. What are your thoughts?
I'm right there with you. I think there's a clear plan. They've been smart. They've been aggressive, but they have not been reckless, which has kind of been gotten them in trouble at times in years past. I think the organization, with these moves, is kind of sending a message that 2017 is the year we get back on top, because it has to be. It's 3 straight 7-9 seasons, a 38-year-old quarterback going to the final year of his contract. Every one of those contract numbers, the best thing about it was its market value. They didn't overpay. Nick Fairley in particular, I thought his market value would be a little bit higher. And they resisted the urge to get, was it Zeitler from
Yes.
Cincinnati? They didn't get into a bidding war, which is smart. And went down next on their checklist, which was Larry Warford, a very reasonable contract. So when it comes to free agent additions, I think the Saints have really done well in this first week.
Yeah. Jeff, what's your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, I think at this point they've taken care of all the business that they kind of needed to take care of. Now, if they can pull off this Brandon Cooks, Malcolm Butler swap is basically what it is, that would be, to me, the cherry on top. That's something I don't think anybody anticipated. They would be able to bring in a cornerback of that caliber. If they can pull that off, to me, it puts them in a great position going into the NFL draft. They've kind of taken care of all their primary needs except for edge rusher.
Yes.
And it's one of the best drafts ever for edge rushers. And that probably is the perfect position for them to be in, considering what they went into just a couple weeks ago.
Right. And edge rusher right now, kind of the insurance is Okafor. Coming off a torn bicep. He was a guy that was a pretty good edge rusher at Arizona before Chandler Jones came in and took his spot. So, there's some insurance there, and he's on kind of a fairly contract. He's got to prove it this year. And again, kudos to Kenny Vaccaro, who's best friends with him, for kind of courting him and asking him to come down to New Orleans, and it looks like it's worked out.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to put my eggs in that basket. I mean, 1-year deal, $3 million, basically tells you this guy is a roll of the dice.
Yes.
Potentially, he had one good season for the most part. But edge rushers are hard to get, and I can't believe Arizona would have let him walk if they thought he was a big-time potential free agent. But he is a roll the dice, let's see what we got kind of pick. So.
Low risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Potentially, right? I mean, he has the chance to be the Nick Fairley of this offseason. If he doesn't, okay. It was $2 million, 1 year, $2 million. So, you kind of roll the dice with that. They still need an edge because there's Cam Jordan, there's Okafor, there's Kikaha, and there's LaFrance, the kid from Tulane, on the roster. It's pretty thin still at edge, so there's no doubt they're going to go edge at some point in this draft, probably very early in this draft as well.
So many opinions on the Brandon Cooks trade, okay? It runs the gamut from people that thought it was an incredible trade for the Saints to those that thought that maybe the Saints got fleeced. Cooks in a 4th-round pick, the 118th pick in the draft, go to the Patriots for their 1st-round pick, which is 32 overall, and the Patriots' 3rd-round compensatory pick, which was 103rd. I don't like the 4th-round pick going back to the Pats. That's my biggest problem with the deal. Some have said, well, you know what they've done is basically done a swap between the 4th and 3rd-round pick, moving up in the 3rd round. I guess you could look at it that way. Sean, what's your thoughts on the deal on the surface?
As of today, when it first was reported, it looked like Belichick got one over on the Saints. But, as it's kind of settled in and we've kind of seen what it could or may not be, while I give the slight edge to the Patriots in that deal, I still think the Saints have the chance to win that deal should those players that they were able to, since with those draft picks that they were able to receive, become good, steady starters in the NFL, then perhaps the Saints ultimately end up winning that deal. The Saints and Patriots have traded 6 times over the last since Sean Payton has gotten here. I think on the surface people would think, the Patriots have won all of them. That's not the case, but they've won the majority of them. But I think it's still too early. It's a little bit incomplete right now. Whoever those players end up being, then we'll know who ultimately won that deal. But on the surface, I think you have to probably give the slight edge to the Patriots.
Well, look, and I think if word wouldn't have leaked out that Malcolm Butler might have been involved, I think that raised expectations among the fans. If you look historically at what wide receivers get traded for in the league, very rarely does a 1st-round draft pick ever be involved. So I think the compensation's okay. I don't think it's that bad, considering Brandon Cooks, I think, is a good receiver, but I think people here are a lot more enamored with him than maybe even outside, except for maybe Bill Belichick, who seems to really be enamored with Brandon Cooks. I think the compensation's fine. I agree with Sean. I mean, maybe you'd slightly favor it, but around around New Orleans, people are apoplectic. I don't know what they thought they were going to get for Brandon Cooks. I think they came out okay. It's a matter of how well do they use the
And then the false reports that we saw come out about 18 for Brandon Cooks, which was not the case. I even said that in one of my blogs. Was that ever really an offer? Was that was it intentional misinformation, or just was a bad report? Who knows? And if you add up the Titans' reported offer versus the Patriots' offer, I guess you'd say the slight edge was this was the right offer to take. But, look, as with most of these trades, you got to see who those players end up being. And then, of course, if those players end up being starters or good players, then, ultimately the Saints could win it.
And look, if they would have been offered the number 18 pick, they would have taken it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right. Second.
It would have not been a brainer. So they were never. That was never.
Right. And of course, the Malcolm Jenkins, the 3 and the 4 from Philly was still out there as well. Your thoughts on that as compared to what they received from the Pats?
No, I think Malcolm Jenkins is a great player, but he's a safety at this point in his career, and I think that's one area where they're deep at. I don't think they need safety help. They need a corner and an edge rusher, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons they nixed it. And he's a little later in his career as well.
I slightly disagree a little bit in terms of where Malcolm's at in his career and the need at safety, just because I'm not concerned with Von Bell, but he's going to his second year. They don't have Jarvis Bird. They need that center fielder type, and Malcolm had a pretty decent year last year. But that offer is not as good as the Patriots offer. So I think the Saints took the best offer, which is obviously what they should have done. And, if you go by the NFL draft points chart and you add up the points, Brandon Cooks was basically the equivalent of the 30th overall pick. So if he was coming out in this draft, where would he have landed? Probably in the 20s, maybe 30. So I think ultimately, all things being considered, it was probably the best deal for the Saints at the time.
Did Sean Payton raise expectations of the fan base by coming out and saying, we're looking for a defensive starter and 2 high picks, that we value Brandon Cooks, it's going to take a lot for you to be able to pry him away from us? I'm paraphrasing here.
His whole outward demeanor towards the whole situation was just so unlike him, just how open and honest he was about what they wanted. And look, to me, the way they played it was so different. We didn't really hear anything about the Jimmy Graham trade when it happened. That was a huge blockbuster. So I don't know if he raised expectations. I think it's no secret. Whatever the draft picks they get, they're likely going to use it on a defensive player at some point.
Yeah, I don't think he cares about what fan expectations are. I think he was trying to raise the bar in the marketplace. He was trying to create a marketplace, create demand for his potential trade asset.
Right.
So that's what that was all about. And that's what he's doing. And you're right, Sean. When's the last time we've ever heard Payton do anything? I mean, he comes out and announces that they're bringing in Malcolm Butler on a visit. That's so unorthodox for this organization.
Let's talk about Malcolm Butler. Visit the Saints as a restricted free agent. There was a lot of talk that originally it was going to be Malcolm Butler for Brandon Cooks. The Saints and the Patriots would swap. The Saints would send their second-round pick, which is 42, to the Patriots. Patriots would send their first-round pick, 32, to the Saints. There was some talk that maybe Payton wanted another pick in addition to that. Obviously, that was what a lot of fans were looking for, but Butler never materialized there. When you look at what the Patriots did, Belichick signed Stephen Gilmore, 5 years, $65 million, $40 million guaranteed. But yet Butler was on that team as a restricted free agent and chose not to re-sign him as a number 1 corner. The Patriots would be due a number 1 pick if a tender is signed, but more than likely, if there's something going to happen, the Saints and the Patriots would have to work out a deal outside of the tender. In other words, Butler signs a tender, as we talked about before the show, handshake agreement. We're going to work out a deal that'll ultimately bring Butler here. Jeff, I'll start with you first. First of all, do you like Butler? What do you like for him in terms of compensation going back to the Patriots? Some have said that 32nd pick will go back to the Patriots for Butler. Is that a fair compensation, considering they gave up a 4th-round pick as well, and they would end up with Cooks and the 103rd pick, that 3rd-round compensatory pick in this deal? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I love Malcolm Butler. I think he would be the best cornerback the Saints have had maybe since I've covered the team.
Okay.
He's a second-team All-Pro corner. I can't think of the Saints having anybody of that caliber. And if you team him with a healthy Delvin Breaux, it's their best corner combination they've had since Tracy Porter and Jabari Greer. That kind of talent. And I think if they can get him for the 32nd pick, I'd do it and not think twice about it. What I can't understand is why New England would ever why they've got all the leverage in this deal. And in their minds, I don't know why they would give him up unless they've already have a wink, nod agreement that this is just the second part of the Brandon Cooks deal. It's the only thing that makes sense to me why they would give him up for anything other than the number 11 overall pick, because that's the leverage they have right now.
Right. Sean?
Look, I agree. Butler would come here and he'd be your best cornerback on your roster. And I wouldn't even be completely against the 32nd pick going back for Malcolm Butler, because then it ends up being Brandon Cooks for Malcolm Butler. And what did the Saints need more? A number one corner or a wide receiver? It's a no-brainer. I'm a little bit curious, though. New England, Bill Belichick, best in the business, choosing essentially Stephon Gilmore, another team's free agent, and paying him and not paying a Super Bowl hero, a great corner, second-team All-Pro, as you said. It wouldn't seem like the difference in pay would be that much. I'm a little curious. Does Bill Belichick know something? Is it just a bad relationship there, or what's the deal? But if Malcolm Butler were to come to the Saints, there's no doubt about it. He's your starting cornerback, and even if it goes 32 back, you're still talking about a Malcolm Butler for Brandon Cooks trade, which I think ultimately Saints would obviously benefit from.
Here's the thing that doesn't make sense, and it's what you're alluding to. You know, the Patriots have done this in the past with players. They've moved on from Jamie Collins, Chandler Jones.
Yes.
But those guys had extenuating circumstances. Chandler Jones had some off-the-field issues.
Yes.
They moved him. Jamie Collins was apparently unhappy with his contract, was getting into scuffles with coaches behind the scenes. From everything I've been able to read about Malcolm Butler, he's been the paragon of virtue as far as being a Patriot way player. Right. He has not complained publicly. Sure, he's not happy with his contract behind closed doors, but he's never taken it out and aired dirty laundry. He's done everything asked of him. I think that would not sell in the locker room, even in New England's locker room, if you were to turn around and sign Stephon Gilmore and not give him that money, because he's done everything you've asked him. Right. That's a departure from past. I know the Patriots are ruthless, but they're not unfair. There's a difference, and I think in this case, it almost sounds unfair to Malcolm Butler.
Guys, what do you think? He left New Orleans today without a contract, and some have speculated, okay, they got the parameters of the deal together because he's a restricted free agent. If there is a handshake agreement, a gentleman's agreement, well, now it's up to the Saints and the Patriots to be able to fulfill whatever compensation they may have agreed upon during the Brandon Cooks deal, but couldn't get the deal done because Butler wouldn't sign his tender. What do you think he would demand a year here in New Orleans, considering, again, what Gilmore has gotten and other corners that have gotten on the market this season?
I think realistically, you're talking in the neighborhood of between 11 and 13 million.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking. I mean, what his market value is, where he's at in his career, what his resume is. I mean, if Stephon Gilmore got that, I mean, would you say Stephon Gilmore is a better cornerback than Malcolm Butler? You know, they're probably neck and neck. And what is it? A.J. Boye got $12 million a season, so you're probably right in that range. I'd hate to see the Saints overpay with a ridiculous market-setting contract for a cornerback, because I don't think he's that. But I mean, fair value is fair value, and I'm thinking anywhere between 11 and 13 million for a guy like Malcolm Butler.
And Butler and his camp are not going to agree to a deal below that.
Right.
So they have a say in this. They can just sign the contract, play 1 year with New England, then cash in the next year. So this is a very complicated, unique situation.
Yes.
It's typical New Orleans Saints, right? They're always get involved in these weird situations.
I underestimated how complicated and fluid this was, and how there's a lot of moving parts that have to be agreed upon.
Because he's a restricted free agent.
He's a restricted free agent. So yeah.
And look, remember last year they were going all in for Josh Norman, so they're willing to pay, because they weren't going to get him for anything less than 12 or 13 million a year.
Hypothetical here, and I brought this up on my radio show today. Dante Hightower signed for 4 years, $10.5 million a year. That's an average, and $19 million guaranteed. No doubt, hometown discount for the Patriots on that one. When you look at some of the guaranteed money, Jamie Collins got, some of the other players that you had mentioned earlier. Hightower chose not to visit New Orleans. He was supposed to visit New Orleans. He did not. Ended up going to visit the Jets and another team. If I was to tell you that you had a choice between a Dante Hightower or a Malcolm Butler, who do you think would be better for the Saints in the long run in terms of needs right now for this team?
I give the slight edge to Hightower because I think they've missed that true alpha in the middle, true unquestioned leader. They haven't had that since Vilma. I would give the slight edge to Hightower. It would be pretty close, but I guess to answer your question, answer your hypothetical, I would go with the linebacker.
Right.
Yeah, I would be the exact opposite. I would definitely go with Butler.
You go with Butler.
I don't even value Hightower. I wouldn't even sign him. I don't have any interest in him at all. And I don't think he is a great fit for the Saints system. He's a great player. But also, I personally, this is just Jeff Duncan's theory.
Sure.
I don't value linebackers in this league. You have to be an every down linebacker, I think, to earn your keep. You've got to be a Luke Kuechly type of talent. I don't think Hightower is that player. I think he's a great player in that system. And I think he's a good leader and a lot of the things that go into it. But the Saints need some people that can stop passes and rush the passer.
Right.
And look, Hightower would be a huge upgrade, though. Sean's right.
Yeah. Right.
I just think they need corners because we don't know what any of these other corners coming back. They've all got
everybody's got injury. Every one of them's got injury issues.
And that's what's behind this move, I think. I think they all know that. They can't count on anybody coming back.
Everyone's got injury issues. I'll say for myself, as I said on my show today, I would have gone with a Dante Hightower. If you told me where the money was, and I had to spend that money, I would go with a linebacker that can cover, a linebacker that can rush the passer, and a guy that another team has to account for. But again, that's me. I mean, I'm looking.
That'd be a great problem to have. Choose all these two.
Oh no! Well, when he said he was visiting, that's one of the first things I thought was, okay, what's he going to demand on the open market? And then the situation came up with Malcolm Butler, and I'm saying, well, obviously Belichick wants Hightower back. He doesn't want Butler back. That also gives me a pause. Saying, and I think that's what the fan base, those that maybe are detractors on the Butler situation, is they want to ask the question, why is Bill Belichick not holding on to this guy if he's that good?
Yeah, rightfully so, right?
Right.
He doesn't make too many personnel mistakes. But I will say this. The one thing it seems like here is that Sean Payton feels like he can manufacture offense. He knows offense. He can manufacture it even without Brandon Cooks. And I think Bill Belichick feels like he can manufacture defense and coach defense without Malcolm Butler. Those are their two strengths, and they are playing to that because they want something for the other side of the ball.
I'll say this. When Patriots players leave, it's not like they drop off. Chandler Jones in Arizona, Collins in Cleveland. He just signed a contract during the season extension. So while there could be a perception, wants to leave the Patriots is not good anymore. That doesn't happen. That doesn't always happen. So not everyone is to Bucky Jones. So
Lord.
Exactly.
You brought my name for the past.
But I would just say,
Brandon Browner.
Yeah.
So just something to think about there.
No doubt. They cut Jarvis Bird, designated him as a post-June 1st cut, which gives them about $7.8 million more to spend this year. That'll have to be after June 1st. As I've said before, I think they've done really, really well in free agency right now. But now let's look at the draft picks. Round 1, they have the 11th and the 32nd pick. Round 2, they have the 42nd pick. Round 3, 76th pick and the 103rd pick. Round 6, the 196th pick. And round 7, the 229th pick. That's right now before any type of situation with Malcolm Butler may come to fruition. Guys, what's the target here? Obviously, I think a lot of people believe pass rusher in that first round pick. If you agree with that, tell me. Then if not, what would you like to see? And then what about that 32nd pick if they end up holding on to it?
Yeah, I'm right. Edge pass rusher to me, franchise quarterback, hardest thing to find in the NFL. True premium edge pass rusher is second. They don't grow on trees, and this is the year to get one. You got to get one early, and I think that's going to happen at 11. So I definitely agree with that. 32 is interesting because, it's been thrown out there, and I was one of them that said, what about McCaffrey at 32? But I'm reading these mocks. He may not make it to 32. He's starting to shoot up the draft board. So outside of getting that edge, which is a must at this point, regardless of who else they sign, I think it's going to be best player. And it wouldn't shock me at all if that ends up being an offensive player or another cornerback, or just it's going to be highest graded available at 32 if they keep that pick.
If they keep it, that's a huge if, right?
Right, yeah,
I'm expecting that not to be there.
Yeah.
But I agree 100%. I think that becomes the luxury item.
Right.
Just take the best player you can get.
Right.
And boy, wouldn't Christian McCaffrey be awesome in this offense?
He's what they're missing, right? No,
He's
a
like
Reggie
a bigger Reggie
Sproles.
Bush.
Right, no doubt.
He would be. I'm sure they would have all kinds of
Right.
ideas for him offensively,
Yeah.
and he would be fun. I mocked them to take Patrick Mahomes at that spot for the same purpose of that. It's a luxury item. You get the fifth-year option on a quarterback, and then it gives you some really good insurance if you like Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
I do.
Sure.
If the Saints value him highly, I could see that happening because then you have a quarterback for 5 years. You could develop him behind Breeze. There's no rush. Everybody, all the scouts think he's got a high upside, but he's in a spread offense.
Yeah.
He's going to need some time. The Saints have time because they have an elite quarterback.
I love McCaffrey at 32 if he's there. And if the Saints still have that pick, I really do. As you guys have mentioned, Reggie Bush, Sproles type player, a player they don't have right now on this roster, gives Breeze and more importantly Peyton, as you just mentioned, another weapon. And he's a much better inside runner than Bush ever was.
Either one of those guys.
Okay, and so I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer if he's sitting there because all of a sudden now you're talking about worried about losing Cooks as a weapon. You know, you got a much better weapon now in McCaffrey if he's there. What about packaging picks? The Saints have done that in the past. Will they, in your opinion, be resistant this year to do that, considering needs across the board? Or have they done enough in free agency that they feel comfortable if they see a player they like moving up and getting that player?
Look, on the surface, hey, keep your full allotment of draft picks, but you know how they are.
Right.
That draft from you, they get that itch, and it's the player they want. Let's go get them. I see 2 third-round picks right there. If you take one of those third-round picks, let's say, what is it, 76? You take 76, and if they keep 32, you can get, or 76 and 11, you can get up to 7 or 8. Let's say the guy I like, which is I saw Larry's today, which is Barnett, who is kind of hanging in that 7 to 14 range. You could certainly see a scenario where let's go get him. So I absolutely think a trade up, which is what they've done in just about every single draft short of 2015 and 2006, I believe, is very possible, especially if they have their sights set on someone and they think they have the ammunition to go up and get them.
And what you want is the flexibility to be able to do that.
Yes.
If you have a guy graded that drops down. I think this is such a deep draft that they probably won't do that. But if there is, say, a Solomon Thomas or somebody that they really have graded highly that suits that need, they'll go up and get him. But they've shown it in the past. They did for Brandon Cooks.
No, I would agree. I'd rather see them have more, utilize all the picks and again, have some competition. But, I get it. I like McCaffrey late if he's there in the first round. If you're at 32 and he's only a few picks away, you think somebody's going to grab him? I would give up one of these picks to get a player like that.
I don't think he's going to be there.
I don't either. He's really going up the draft boards. He really is.
And I can see why. There's really no downside to the kid.
Right. Guys, last word on Malcolm Butler before we go to break, and then we're going to shift to Pelicans. Do you think a deal gets done and that Malcolm Butler's lining up as the number 1 corner for the New Orleans Saints as they open up in September?
As of today, yes. I think it gets done eventually. I think there was the deadline for the tender to be signed is April 21st, so it may take a little longer than people expect, but I think ultimately he ends up with the Saints.
Yeah, it makes no sense for him to even be here on this visit and not visiting anybody else.
Right.
It's like a one-team deal. So something is going on behind closed doors between the Saints and Patriots that adds up to a deal being done.
And neither one of you guys would be opposed to the 32nd pick going back to New England?
I certainly wouldn't, no.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Eric Asher is your host, along with Sean Fazende and Jeff Duncan. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll talk some Pelicans. We'll open up the phone lines in a little bit. We'll talk some UNO basketball as well. Talk about the future of LSU basketball. All that coming up on Inside New Orleans Sports. Don't go anywhere.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or AmcoFenceCompany.com.
TikTok Cafe, located on Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie, is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our menu offers breakfast dishes like our Western omelet made from scratch biscuits, grits, egg sunny side up, and lunch specials like our homemade cheeseburgers with a side of golden brown fries. Don't forget about our weekday lunch special and that every Tuesday is steak night. TikTok Cafe, open 24/7 at Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports and Jeff Duncan, columnist for the New Orleans Times-Picayune and NOLA.com, are our guests tonight. Before we go to Pelicans, let's touch on really a real feel-good story here in the city, and that's Mark Schlesinger and his UNO Privateers winning the Southland Conference regular season, winning the Southland Conference tournament, going into the first four and barely losing to Mount St. Mary's. You know, there's been some controversy over whether they should have fouled and extended the game, but you can't take away what the Privateers did. And, of course, the rebuilding of this program, you know, and that kind of also, we want to talk about what's going on with the baseball team as well with Blake Dean and what he's been able to do. I mean, to beat your alma mater, LSU, twice in a season, it's UNO Athletics has come a long, long way. And I think it's a great story of the rebirth and renaissance of that university and that athletic program, which was really on its knees after Katrina. Guys, I'll start with you first. First of all, I think everybody's excited, happy about the run, and you know, even with the loss, I didn't feel bad. Mm-hmm. I actually congratulated the coach, and I thought that it was a valiant effort on their part. It was a gritty, scrappy team, and you know, I thought maybe, you know, again, I don't like how they lost. I mean, I thought they should have fouled and extended the game. But at the same time, you can't discount what that team was able to do. Your thoughts on the season, your thoughts on the very controversial end of the game against Mount St. Mary's.
I'll start with the tough part first. I don't know if you watched the film of that game either. To me, there was no question about it. Should have fouled there because the difference in in the time in which you would have gotten the ball back was just too short for a cross-court pass. But that being said, it was minor. I mean, I don't know if it cost them the game, right. But it was a tough way to end it. But you cannot, just underestimate how good of a job Coach Schlesinger has done this year and has done. I mean, it's been so many tough times, and as I've said many times, no one has done more with less than Schlesinger and Blake Dean with the baseball program. And thank God for UNO. It was such a terrible year for local college basketball. Mm-hmm. Thank God for UNO this year. But look, he is a first-class guy. When you want to see guys like that succeed, sure. And he put a lot of time and effort in. I've used this, not to drag on, but I've used this story in your show a couple times where I was speaking at my elementary school's just dad's club. It was like 20 guys on a random Tuesday night. I walk in, there's Coach Schles just talking about UNO, wanting to kind of generate the support. I'm thinking this guy is just out there hustling. So he believes in it. He believes in the program, so he deserves success. So kudos to UNO.
Reminds me a lot of Dale Brown. When Brown first got to Louisiana, crisscrossing the state with the purple and gold nets. We've all heard that story, the way that Schlesinger has sold this program. Jeff, what's your thoughts on the year? And then what has turned out to be a little bit of a controversial way? I hate to say controversial because it doesn't put a damper on a great season.
No, and I think what Sean hit on was that Schlesinger was really the perfect coach for that job. And so kudos to Amy Champion for hiring him and recognizing that, because he didn't have much of a name when he came here, but he ended up being the perfect coach at the perfect time. And I think they're positioned now after this season to really go on a run and dominate the Southland Conference. I mean, they should be the premier program there, and he can become one of those mid-majors that's there every year in the dance. There's no reason why they can't get back there. They were that way when Tim Floyd and Tick Price were there, and I think they've got an opportunity. They're not a football university.
Right.
So this is going to be their flagship program. It's a matter of can they keep him now if somebody comes after him.
Right.
Because let's face it, they're cash strapped there. As far as the end of the game, and we were talking in the break, I'm one of the few people that felt like don't foul, don't give them points. You've got time. The only reason I say that is in my high school basketball years, our coach drilled us on in-game situations. And one of the things we did every day in practice was we put 4 seconds on the clock, inbounded from the other end, and I know exactly how much 4 seconds is. That's a lot of time. You can go the length of the court dribbling in 4 seconds. So they had 3 basically. If they could get it, execute the pass at midcourt, I thought they're going to get to be able to make a move, make a pass, and get a shot off. That's the only reason I say that, because I've done it a million times. And so often I've seen people not know how much time is on the clock and shoot a midcourt shot with 2 full seconds on the clock.
Right.
But they didn't execute, and so you could certainly make an argument. If they foul, they could at least tie it with a three-pointer. Right. But I like the move, and it's easy to second guess now that didn't work.
Right. No, well, it is easy to second guess. And look, I almost hate the second guess it because it was such a great year. Yeah. He did such a great job, and it's a feel-good story. It really is a feel-good story when you see where they've come from and where they are now in both football and in both basketball and baseball. So, I mean, again, I think everybody's excited about that. Also, let's throw in Dillard as well, the Dillard men, who are in the NAI here, who have had a great, great year, kind of under the radar. Loyola goes in. They lose in the first round of the NAIA, but they had a pretty good year as well. So, again, we kind of hang our hat on Dillard right now, and hopefully they can go get a championship as well.
Isn't it nice to have somebody in college basketball to talk about this time of year? Yeah. I mean, it's so exciting. Right. I don't know how many people I talked to that watched the Southland Conference Championship game. People were riveted by what UNO was doing. It became a really big story for New Orleans.
I agree. Let's shift to LSU and the future of that program now that Johnny Jones has been fired. Can they get a big name at LSU? Obviously, they have the money to spend if they want to, and I guess a big question I get all the time is, do you trust Joe Oliva to make a good hire there?
Well, that's fair. I mean, track record's a track record, especially in basketball. So that's certainly fair. Can they get a big name? Yeah, I saw Tom Crean was just fired. A guy like that who was at Indiana, where Indiana basketball is what LSU football is, whereas LSU basketball is probably more like Indiana football. So I would basically expectations are a little bit lower, but that's a quality coach that can recruit and be an in-game coach. Yes. And look, as long as at LSU, if you're getting to the dance year in and year out, you're set. So I think they can get a name. Another name I would look at is Kermit Davis from Middle Tennessee State. I'm curious the route they go. Is it a Crean guy or is it a mid-major guy kind of on his way up? Look, LSU's not the basketball program it once was, but I don't think it would take much for them to at least have some semblance of success this time of year with the next coaching hire.
Look, I think they just get the best guy. Doesn't matter if it's a big name or not. I think too often people are caught up in getting a name.
Names, right.
And sometimes that's the way to go if it's the right person. But a Kermit Davis who can coach his tail off would be a perfect fit. Just get the best person. Don't worry about the name. But having said that, a lot of schools in the SEC have hired big name guys. You've had Ben Howland, Avery Johnson, Quanzo Martin just took the Missouri job, Bruce Pearl. The SEC West, I think, is there to be had. It's kind of wide open, the SEC West. They need to make this hire, make it the right one, because I actually think LSU could be the best program in the SEC West if they get the right person for the job.
I would agree.
I would just say, if I could, you mentioned good game day coach. That's what's been missing. Yeah. Recruiting is going to come. You get a pretty good recruiting ground around it, but an in-game coach is what that program needs.
Eric Musselman at Nevada. He'd be a great hire.
Is it Bray for Notre Dame has also been mentioned?
Well, if they could get Mike Bray, that would be a huge get. I mean, and there's no reason why, if they put the resources into it, they can't do it. I think the one question, though, that was brought up at the very beginning is, will a big-name coach come here? Right. Joe Oliva does not have a great reputation nationwide.
Right.
A lot of people are going to wonder if he's going to survive, and they want to know that they're going to have some security with the next guy if he leaves.
Great point. Pelicans right now 27-42, 5.5 games out of the 8th seed. For the most part, I think a lot of us believe that, again, that ship has sailed in terms of the playoffs. They did make a great move today, by the way. Jordan Crawford comes in from the D-League, playing very, very well for this team. When I first read this morning that they were going to sign him to a 10-day contract, the first thing I said was, why? Sign him to a 2-year deal, get him locked up. At worst, he's a guy that comes off your bench, and he's instant offense for you. So I think that again, that is a good deal for them so far. Your thoughts on the Crawford deal?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think he's played well. He provided a little bit of a spark. Pelicans are still up and down. And look, you knew the chemistry was going to take some time to figure it all out. But I think the main chemistry issue is Gentry the right coach for this particular roster, for this particular Big Three or Big Two? Look, there's going to be some changes in there has to be because they're not going to make the playoffs. And I just think at some point you got to make the choice: is the head coach the right fit for what now is two star players on one roster?
Right.
Yeah, there's so much uncertainty, I think, with the organization. Does Drew Holiday come back? If you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have thought it'd be a no-brainer. Now I'm starting to wonder if he would even want to come back. He has not fit in and mesh at all in this system. Whether that's anybody's fault, I don't know. And Alvin Gentry didn't come here to coach this edition of the Pelicans, and I'm not sure he's the right coach for it. And do you have faith that Dell Demps is the general manager to build around these two? Because look at the 7-year track record. He hasn't shown that. So I think everything is on the table if you're Tom Benson and Mickey Loomis.
Go ahead.
And then we talked about this in the Fox 8 Sports office. The first day out of the other part of that deal was Caspi. You got to let him go because he hurts. Now he's healthy and talking to playoff team
in 18 days.
You just wonder how different it would look if you had a guy like that to at least help with some shooting. But it's just kind of Pelicans. Bad luck or no luck at all.
And another one that I can't understand, they bring in Wayne Selden, and he's starting.
Right.
And Jordan Crawford, maybe they want him to be part of the second unit. I don't know. But he's clearly one of their best players, and they're starting Wayne Selden, who they just brought off the street. I don't. Some of the moves I just don't get.
I agree with you. And the Caspi thing gets me because I understand when he broke the finger, the first time, or the thumb, the first thing I thought was, okay, well, he's done for the year. But the fact that he's come back so quickly, man, look, you got a Marashik at the end of the bench. He can't get off why not just hold on to the guy and at least see what you have going forward, because he's been a guy that's been instant offense. And as you mentioned, now he's going to end up with a playoff team. And again, you could have utilized them. But let's dive a little bit more into Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry. I've talked about it a lot about Dell Demps. I give him a tremendous amount of credit for the Ryan Anderson deal. Bringing Anderson here for what he gave up, and that contract was a great deal. I don't give him a tremendous amount of credit for the Anthony Davis deal because, that was just a luck of the draw with the ping pong balls. The DeMarcus Cousins deal was a fire sale. I mean, Sacramento wanted to get rid of him. They were not trading him to the Lakers. They're not going to put him in the same division. They probably wanted to trade him out of conference but couldn't get what they wanted for him. So when I look at the 7-year body of work, I say to myself, at this point, he's had the opportunities to turn this thing around, and he hasn't done it. Now, would it be better for this team to go and take a look at a new general manager who brings in a new coach? And no knock against Alvin Gentry, because he hasn't had the tools in the tool chest to play his type of system. But I wonder if he can play this ground and pound type system they're going to have to play with these two big centers, power forwards in Cousins and Davis. Jeff, I'll take you first. What are your thoughts? Do you think that they're going to make a move here finally and look at the body of work, or did the Cousins job save Dell Demps' job? And is Alvin Gentry the right fit for the team they have now?
Well, those are good questions that I think only Tom Benson and Mickey Loomis in the front office can answer. I think there's a big picture question they have to ask is, are they going in the right direction? Is the fan base energized by this, or is this just a little bit of a false hope? Everybody was excited with the Boogie Cousins trade, and they're going to still struggle to sell tickets and go back to being the way it was before. I personally think they should clean house and start over and try to get somebody in that has some acumen coaching these two talents, because the future of the franchise rides on this.
Right.
They've made this move. It's Boogie or bust. They've got to make it work. And right now, I realize it's a transition period, but it's not working very well.
No.
If you look at the numbers, when those two are on the court together, neither one of them is very good. They're much better when the other one leaves the court and they play by themselves, because that's where they're used to playing. They've got to figure it out. And this is nothing against Alvin Gentry, because I like him, and I think he does know basketball, but he came in to coach some shooters and pace and space, and they let Eric Gordon walk and Ryan Anderson walk with no compensation. Those were all decisions made above his head, and he's paying the price.
Right, I agree.
I tend to think that Dell's going to survive this. I don't think he should. I think, look, you could make a case he could have been fired 2 or 3 times in his tenure. He's always done just enough to to say, okay, well, we got something going here. Maybe it's the coach that needs to go. The only way I would see it not happening is if they do the president, GM, coach all in one type scenario, which who knows if that would ever happen. I know that was in that Sporting News article that was theorized in that. But I tend to think that Dell will survive this. I think it's Gentry because it's an easy sell, right? Look, I got some players here. We just need to get a coach to mesh with them, and we're good. Right. I tend to think with how patient Mickey Loomis seems to be when it comes to the Pelicans, that it's Dell Demps survives, Alvin Gentry does not.
And he likes Dell Demps.
He does, right.
Personally likes him, trusts him. So they're always very patient.
Right, and I get that. I just wonder if it's deserving.
Right.
You
know, I don't think it is.
It's not deserving, but I think that's what's going to end up
Their
happening.
MO is to always be patient.
You know, and look, you really basically got Cousins on a one-year deal. Although I don't think he's going anywhere. He's already lost $30 million leaving Sacramento. He can make up all but 10 of that if he re-signs with the Pelicans long term. I can't see him going anywhere else. And again, losing that kind of money. He's from Mobile, unless he just feels like he can't coexist here. But Cousins is another part of this. He got his 19th technical last night. It was rescinded by the NBA, rightly so. And I thought the last one should have been rescinded as well. I thought it was really ticky-tack. But he's got a reputation, man.
That's it.
The officials, look, it's a long history between him and the officials. He doesn't get a call. He does not get a call. There's no doubt about it. He's been a target for refs. He's a target for opposing fans, okay, who, again, come after him constantly. He's been fined $50,000 since he's been with the Pelicans. But he's such a talent. I'd like to see him more inside than outside.
Oh, you think?
The three-point shot all the time, you can make it. I get it. You can take guys off the dribble. But, man, he's the first real center they've had since Tyson Chandler. And the Pelicans don't offensive rebound, but at least there is some offensive rebounding when he's in the paint under the rim. Your thoughts on Cousins, and is he going to have to change a little bit here in New Orleans?
Well, he's got to be smarter. There's no excuse for him getting into it with fans at this point. Hecklers at a basketball game are like Twitter trolls. You ignore them. If you pay attention to them, you're feeding them. If you watch that video, Anthony Davis just stares at him and walks on. That's what DeMarcus Cousins has to do. Same thing with these incited kind of skirmishes that happen during the game. I understand people are targeting him. You've got to be smarter. You've got to think about your team. He's in a position now where he has no margin for error. He's got to stay on the court for this team to try and be successful. And he's also got to prove not only to his new teammates and new front office, but the fans and maybe to a prospective employer around the league down the road that he can change. Because right now he has a horrible reputation.
Right, and it really hurts. I'll tell you, I get frustrated watching it because he doesn't get a call. Calls that other guys would get, he doesn't get. And it's based off a reputation.
But that's it, and he's got to own that. And if he gets better at that over time, that'll even itself out. But on the court, he's a little different than I thought he would be. He's a little more face up to the basket than I thought. Now, some of that could be Gentry just let him go. It's freelance. It's just let him go. It's because that's kind of how he coaches with the wide open type thing. So I'm curious if another coach is in there and it was a different system that could maybe mesh AD and him a little bit better. I think that could potentially work. But that's the one thing that surprised me is how much he takes that ball, gets the ball at the elbow, and he's facing the basket. And he's dry. He's dribbling. It was a little different than just a back to the basket, post up, power, back people down. That's really not his game.
Right. Look, as a guy that played the game like all you guys did, seeing a center bring the ball up. Okay. You get it to the guards, get down low, and so we'll see what happens down the line here. Let's talk about Drew Holiday for a moment because I agree with you guys. He has not fit in with Davis and with Cousins. I think it was John Reed I had on the other day who mentioned from the New Orleans Times-Picayune that maybe in this lineup, Drew Holiday is more suited to be the two guard and maybe go out and get another guard to play the point guard position, which again, if he would like to stay here in New Orleans, may work for him because he has the ability to slash. He can still pass the basketball. He's a pretty good outside shooter. I think they need a field general type point guard, a demonstrative point guard, a guy that, for the lack of better, you could throw Avery Johnson's name out there when he was in the league, Chris Paul when he was here. Those guys are hard to find. Someone that can get the ball to these guys around the rim, but somebody also that knows how to make that interior pass. But more than anything else, a guy that can pull these guys together on the court. So it's not always on Davis to have to pacify or kind of rein Cousins in. Sean, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on that? Do they need a different type of point guard for this team, or is Drew Holiday the guy that can get this done?
It's curious because the small sample size with Drew in this pairing, it hasn't been good. I think you can get better there, but the question is what is available. And you mentioned something about kind of an alpha dog, if you will, at point guard. That's not AD's personality, and I'm not sure he's ever going to be comfortable in that role. So if they're looking for him to that, I just don't think that's the case. So yeah, it'd be great to find someone, but I'm not sure that's Drew Holiday's personality either. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you're asking too much there or what, but it's just a situation where does that guy exist and is he attainable? I think that's a very fair question that none of us really know the answer to.
Yeah, when you bring in a guy like that, it's hard to find that guy.
Yeah, there is.
Who can control DeMarcus Cousins? So far, we haven't seen anybody that can control him. 6 coaches in Sacramento can't control him. So if you do make a coaching change with Gentry, who do you get that can control him? I don't know. I think
Malone was probably the best.
He was the best.
He was probably the best.
But who do you get? George Karl was a very much of an authoritarian. He couldn't control him. And right now, I think there's questions if anybody can. You spend a lot of time with DeMarcus Cousins dealing with DeMarcus Cousins.
Yes.
Right.
I think everybody on the team, and that was one of the issues that he had in Sacramento.
And it can wear you out.
Yes.
It can
There's
wear
a lot
an
of
organization
energy
out.
directed toward one player.
Right.
And I think there's something to be said. Did they have that plan coming in? I hope they had a plan for what they're going to do going forward, because right now you've got this situation and the future rides on it.
And you surely don't want to alienate Anthony Davis down the line where he gets frustrated that he's got to, and they're friends, and of course we don't know the intimate relationship, what goes on behind the scenes between the guys, but you can see a little bit of frustration. Just the other night, Gentry and Davis trying to calm him down on the bench.
Yes.
Okay, and after a while that gets kind of old. Let's go to the phone lines. We got a full call board. Brian is in Metairie. Brian, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Brian.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Great.
I'm going to beat a dead horse just for a minute, if you don't mind. I've said this many a time. I've called this show a couple of times. First off, Demps nor Gentry should be there. Demps should have been gone before Monty Williams, and Gentry should have never been hired. And I guess the only way we're going to get rid of Demps is to hit Benson in the pocketbook. I can tell you, if Demps comes back, I won't purchase a ticket to another game for the Pelicans while Demps and Gentry are here, especially Demps. But I don't think either one of them are the answer to the problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Guys, do you think that's, prevalent among the fan base? A lot of people feel that way?
I do. I don't think Brian's alone in that sentiment at all. And I think there were a lot of people jumped on board when they got DeMarcus Cousins. I think some of that honeymoon period is wearing off, and they want to see some real changes that they think could affect this team going forward.
Joe is in Lacombe. Joe, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Joe.
Thank you for taking the call. I don't know. And by the way, Jeff, I'm a lifetime friend, 53 years with Will Pennigy. Coached him in Nord and played ball with him at Johnny Mac. That's irrelevant. What I'm calling about is something I've watched forever. And I don't believe, even though Mr. Loomis is great with the Saints in direction and whatever up to this point, I don't believe the crossover management of the whole facility that Mr. Benson owns, I don't think it's proper. And when it comes to DeMarcus Cousins, he's going to put up the numbers, et cetera, and try to get that big ticket deal with the Pelicans. But he's not contributing, and he's not good on the court with people. And I don't believe if that can normally do it, because I played ball, I don't think it transforms over into the locker room as well. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks for the phone call. Certainly appreciate it.
Fair point. I mean, it's a fair point. The crossover management, if you will. I've always believed, Mickey Loomis has always said his role with the Pelicans is overblown. He doesn't have much day-to-day stuff. But I think that from an appearance standpoint, it just when one team is struggling, well, both teams are struggling, but one team is clearly struggling, it just doesn't look good.
Look, Joe brought up a good point. I don't know if you all watched the end of that Utah game. I think it was last week. But they're down 4 points, 2 minutes left in the game. Cousins is doing his Tyreek Evans impression of going to the basket, loses the ball. is begging for the foul under the basket. The ball's going the other way,
That's right.
and he does not cross half court when his man, Rudy Gobert, puts in a stick back and gives it a 6-point lead. If I'm on his team, I'm upset.
Right.
It's one thing to lose the ball. It's another thing not to hustle back on defense at the end of the game. It didn't happen in the second quarter.
Right, I agree with
those are issues. Those are reasons Sacramento let him go.
Yep, no doubt. Greg is in Houma. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. I don't know if I have a question or I just want to hear your thoughts on this. I kind of think that everybody's putting all the chips in the table for this year for the New Orleans Saints. And if that's the case, which I agree upon, and we go another 7-9 season, Drew Brees walks. I mean, what's your thoughts on cleaning house on the quarterbacks, Luke McCown, Garrett Grayson, going after like a Tannehill or something that might be able to bridge the gap if we do have a losing season this year? And I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think another losing season, there's going to be more than just quarterback changes. I think you could see a head coaching change and coaching staff change. And you mentioned quarterback. I have no idea what Ryan Tannehill's contract looks like. I don't think he'd be available. But right, at some point, Drew Brees is not going to be the quarterback of the Saints. So at some point, they got to look to do they have that guy on the roster to replace him? And I think that's a legitimate question that, again, we don't know the answer to.
Jeff?
Yeah, look, I think they want to have parallel tracks, right? You have one with Drew Brees being your quarterback, and then in the best case scenario, you have a backup that's a developmental prospect, sort of like what's going on in New England with Garoppolo and Tom Brady. That would be the best of both worlds, and I don't know if they have that guy right now that's there apparent on the roster.
Tony's in Harvey. Tony, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Tony.
Hey, I want to get y'all's feelings on Mark Ingram because it took for him to lose. Hey, how you doing?
Good deal.
It took for Mark Ingram to lose his job to start running with anger and aggression. Do you think Sean Payton is going to trust him with that job? I think they're going to draft a running back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, I think it's Mark Ingram's job to lose.
I think it's Mark Ingram's job, but I also think they're going to draft a running back because the way he uses his running backs, if he gets a different style of running back, then I think that's the key there. Mark Ingram is a guy. He's a good contributor to the offense. 1,000 yards last year, 7-9 season. But my point is, he's never going to lead the offense, obviously. And as long as he's being productive, I think it'll be his job.
And if Hightower goes to San Francisco, it's a definite. Right. You're going to draft a running
back.
back.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. Right. I mean, I think they need one of those satellite back kind of guys. But I think Mark Ingram's fine. I thought he had a really good year last year. He's gotten better every year. He's now an all-around back.
Let's see if we can squeeze Ed in. Ed from Kenner. Ed, welcome.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Look, the question I wanted to ask real quick was about Butler. Didn't New England just pay a cornerback $13 million, and they turned around and they told him that they weren't going to pay nobody no more than like $9 or $10 million? You don't think he's going to be upset about that when he goes back and plays, and he'll be just like a receiver we just got rid of? He'd be unhappy. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
They did pay Gilmore. They didn't pay him.
Well, there's no doubt he's not going to be happy about that. But look, they can salve that. I mean, they just won 2 Super Bowls together. I think they can get it done, but they have to have a conversation about that. And look, things change. I mean, things change over time. Maybe they could sell him on, hey, we brought this guy in to make things better for you and our coverage. Who knows how they're going to sell it? But I do think it's an issue. There's no question.
Final word.
Yeah, no, in regards to Malcolm Butler, that's always been, that's the one thing that's in the back of my mind. Why are they paying this guy and not the guy that they've groomed from, I think it's from West Alabama? Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but I think ultimately he ends up getting traded at some point.
Sean Fazende, Jeff Duncan, thanks for being on our panel tonight. Thanks so much for watching another edition of the Inside New Orleans Sports. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also statewide on Pelican Sports Television. You catch me on the radio, 990 AM WGSO. That is 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. weekdays. You can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com, and every single episode of Inside New Orleans Sports can also be seen at ericasher.com. Don't forget about that TuneIn Radio app. It's a free download for your smartphone or tablet. Special thanks to our guests, Jeff Duncan and also Sean Fazende. Also Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juneau, Naila Jones, Philip Williamson, and my director, William Hill. Thanks for watching another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll catch you right back here next Thursday night. Have a great week.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.